Hi everyone. So in this video, I want to talk about tips, or I want to share some tips on blending cake flavors or just general tips about baking flavor fusions. And basically, this is for anybody who's getting into baking and they're trying to sort of add more depth to their menu or just kind of get exciting when it comes to the baking, right? So today I'll be sharing cake flavor blending tips, and I'll also share some flavor fusions to try out if you're a baker who's been doing this for a while. So what is flavor blending? Flavor blending in cakes is the art of combining different flavors to create a harmonious and complex taste experience, right? So if you have this skill, it kind of elevates your cakes. If you're selling your cakes, people keep coming back for them because it's just so interesting. It's a really good skill to have, especially for anybody who's either thinking of starting a cake business or somebody who already has a cake business, especially if you're a home baker. This just kind of makes your menu interesting. So successful flavor blending considers various ingredients, how they compare and contrast with each other, how they complement each other, and how to just kind of enhance the overall taste of your cake without overpowering it, right? So if you are a cake artist, right? I did a previous video. If you haven't watched it after this video, make sure you watch it. I talked about one of the skills that you need to have as a cake artist, and one of them is literally flavor blending and flavor fusions. It is important for you to understand classic flavors, especially the flavor blends, how they complement each other and which flavors will complement each other. So then when maybe your customers want to try something different and they're asking you for advice, you can be able to advise your clients on the different types of flavors, especially if you've been with them for a while and you know their taste, right? So again, if you want to do business and you want to keep your menu interesting, this is one of the ways that you can do this. So why should you listen to me, right? So a little bit about me. My name is Maureen Amari. I'm a professional baker, cake artist, and a trainer. I am the founder and chief trainer at the Baking with Amari brand. I've been a bakery professional for over 12 years. Professional baker, cake decorator, and a recipe developer. I've worked in the baking industry since 2008 in a commercial bakery. I'm the owner of a bakery business that's based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I've been an entrepreneur in this industry since 2012. I've also been training bakers since 2015. My business is Baking for Profit Limited, and under that, I have 3 brands. That's Baking with Amari. Then I have a chiffon cakes brand, Chiffon Cakes by Amari. And we also have another brand, Baking for Profit program, where we talk about business topics for bakers. So in my Baking with Amari brand, we offer baking and cake decoration classes, both online and practical. We also sell recipe ebooks and hard copy ebooks. We also offer baking for business master classes. Our class workshop for the baking classes is at Arcades Discount Mall, shop number 52, ground floor, next to the Greenhouse Mall. If you know the area, it's on Gong Road around Adams Arcade. And again, we offer both online and hands-on classes. So I'm a passionate baker. I've been employed in the food industry since I was 16, like 16 to 25 food industry. After that, I decided to pursue my baking in passion in baking in 2012 and turn it into an income generating activity, which is what I do till now. My focus currently is on teaching individuals to bake, decorate, and I also participate in various training and industry events. Just a little bit background of my story. Born in Nairobi, Kenya, my family relocated when I was 12 to Ohio, USA. Then I came back in Nairobi in 2007 and decided to try entrepreneurship. Failed within a year, lost all my money. So I had to get employed. And then later I got back into entrepreneurship in 2012. So I learned to bake in high school. Actually, my first baking teacher was Miss Mina Dew in high school in Ohio. She really encouraged my passion for baking, taught me so much, and that's why I really got into baking. I was baking for home since then. I did a whole semester of creative cooking, which is like 3 to 4 months. I also attended professional online baking courses when I got serious with entrepreneurship, which is 2010 to 2013. I was basically taking very in-depth courses on cake decoration, pastries, bread making, all that stuff to perfect my craft. And as you can see, there's been such a difference. So this is my work between 2007, 2008, when I was telling myself I'm getting busy. But I was obviously not very proficient. But once I took those courses and just started practicing, these are the results that I started getting. And I've been practicing and perfecting my craft since then to this day. If there's something new to learn, something new to try out, I'm definitely trying it out. So I'm proficient in cake making, cake decoration, as well as pastries, laminated pastries, yeast pastries, also cookies and fried pastries as well. And like I said, cake decoration on top of that. So that's my story. I do external staff trainings for organizations as well as any other like cake supply shops or anything like that. I'm also been invited to judge in baking competitions, and I'm proud to be a professional baker and a cake artist, right? So again, who's a cake artist? Imagine somebody who just doesn't bake cake but turns them into beautiful pieces of work. That's what a cake artist is. So if you're looking to do just that, right, to take cakes that are delicious and just use various frostings, edible decorations to create amazing decorations, that's what you're looking to be. You're looking to be a cake artist. And again, one of the skills you really want to have is you need to be able to successfully flavor blend, especially when it comes to cake making. And today I just want to share a few tips. Of course, I always go in depth in my classes, but this is sort of to give you an overview of some of the things you can start doing to help you with your flavor blending. So number one, start with the basics, right? If this is something you're getting started with, you've never done this before, either you're an amateur or you're thinking of getting into this. Get started with classic flavor fusions and pairings, mainly because you can't go wrong with these, right? Since it's been done before, you really can't go wrong with this. So some of the classic ones are cafe mocha, which is chocolate and coffee, right? Those two flavors. Lemon and berries. So you can do either lemon and raspberries, lemon and blueberries. Those go very well together. There's also pina colada, that's coconut and pineapple flavor. So that's a very classic flavor blend. There's also chocolate mint, that's chocolate and peppermint, or chocolate and orange. So if you're just getting started, these classic flavors are tried and tested, right? Definitely, you're not going to fail in this, right? You're going to shine in this. So if you're just getting started, start with basics that people have already done, and they are already in demand from cake lovers. So it's not something that people have never heard of, right? As you can see on the right, this is one of our pina colada recipes. And so this is quite a favorite for some people. So if you're wondering, what do I do with this information? Well, I would tell you, if you are a complete beginner, you've never done this before, take a course, right? Take a course with somebody who knows exactly how to do this, somebody who has experience with flavor blending and all that stuff and flavor fusions. Get the correct baking and decoration skills by taking either a hands-on class or an online course that covers both baking and cake decoration that includes flavor blending. Like you can see, this is one of the things we cover in our 12-week course, lemon and blueberry, quite a favorite with people. So if you're a beginner, here are 5 classic flavor fusions I'd tell you to start with, right? Whether it is getting the recipe, whether it is, finding a recipe book or taking a class, learn these top 5 and practice them. Pina colada, that's pineapple and coconut. Cafe mocha, that's coffee and chocolate. Chocolate mint cake, chocolate orange, and then lemon blueberry cake. If you can just start with those, get a good recipe, practice it 2 or 3 times, taste it, make sure you like how it tastes like and it's giving you a good result. If you start with those, not only will you, your friends, family love them. If you are doing business, your customers are also going to love them too. And you can always buy a tried and tested recipe, right? If you take your class, you should get a tested recipe from your instructor. Or you can just buy a recipe ebook and try the recipe a few times. Like we have multiple recipe ebooks that have flavor fusion cakes that you can try out from us. So there's going to be a link below. You can WhatsApp DM me and I can just share those details. So the second tip for cake flavor blending, understand primary, secondary, and accent flavors, right? Understand primary, secondary, and accent flavors. And this is something I started getting serious in sharing with my students from last year and this year specifically with the 12-week course, because it's really important in this day and age. Our clients are changing. Their tastes are more they're more advanced. So it's better to give them something that they are interested in or something that's interesting to them. So I would tell you this in steps. We're going to take this in steps. Step one, understand your primary flavor. So primary flavors are simple. It's like vanilla or chocolate, just a plain cake. That's your primary flavor. So your cake is going to start with that, or carrot cake or fruit cake. That's the primary flavor that you're starting with. Then now the second one, when you're coming to flavor blending, you need a secondary flavor. What that flavor should do is complement. It should not overwhelm, right? It should complement the primary flavor. If it's overwhelming it, it's either a primary flavor and you've put two flavors that are too strong together, or you didn't do it right. So know what your secondary flavor is and make sure it complements, not overwhelms the main flavor. So for example, orange is good, or adding a bit of peppermint to a chocolate cake is good. So find a balance. Don't overdo it. Just find a nice balance. Okay. Then after that, you need to make sure you understand the third one, which is step 3, consider an accent flavor. So a good example that I love giving people is when you make your carrot cake, if you add some lemon juice or even a little bit of lemon rind to your carrot cake, it enhances the carrot cake. So if you look at that carrot, the carrot is a primary flavor. The spices, right, the cinnamon, and some people use nutmeg and all that stuff. The spices are the secondary flavors. They complement the cake. And then to add an accent, you put some lemon in there, right? So that completes the perfect flavor blending for your carrot cake. So remember to keep the star of the show, right? Keep the star of the show, the carrot cake. Don't overwhelm it. Like, I'm tasting that carrot cake and I am also tasting way too much orange in there, or I'm tasting way too much lemon in there. No, you just want to make sure you're bringing in every flavor to just complement. So remember, accent flavors aren't always a must, because oftentimes I just share the carrot cake recipe as it is because the spices are a very good secondary flavor. But if you're looking to up your game, add some lemon zest, add some lemon juice. It's not a must, but it's a great consideration, right? It's a good thing to add. It just takes it to the next level. So if you're the type of cake artist who's, your intermediate level, you're looking to get things to the next level, this is one of the ways you can do it. So my third tip for you for cake blending or cake flavor blending is use flavor layers. So this means that you are not only putting flavor in the cake, you are using layers and fillings to sort of blend those flavors together and add depth to your cake. So a lot of you have probably seen this. This is something a lot of people already do. In the African market, especially in the Kenyan market, people have gotten serious with this, which is why I love this, because it just means our industry is growing. So to give you an example, let's look at lemon cake layers with blueberry filling. Again, this is something I absolutely love doing in our 12-week course. You can just bake lemon cakes, and then you choose to add your secondary flavor, which is the blueberry filling, as a filling, right? Not inside the cake, you add it as a filling. And then if you want, you can add another accent flavor in there. But already something like lemon blueberry is perfect. And I haven't only used the cake to flavor. I'm using the cake filling and the act of layering, the technique of layering cakes to, come together with this, to bring this blend together, right? So it doesn't only have to be the cake that has the flavors. You can also add other elements like fillings and frostings to layer this depth of flavor in there. So this is a good way of doing this. And some people add lavender to the frosting, right, to add more depth to this lemon blueberry, right? So cake layering is a way that can help you in flavoring or cake flavor fusions. Another way is like this cafe mocha. This is a cafe mocha from one of our 12-week course students. And so we use whipped cream outside, but inside we actually have, again, layered the cake in a different way. We've added, actually at this particular time, we add crushed Oreos inside. So this is like a texture flavor blending, but the cake itself is actually coffee and chocolate, right? So we have coffee mocha, coffee and chocolate flavors. And then you can add maybe an element of like ganache or mousse or coffee flavored mousse inside this cake layers that's gonna add on to that layering of flavors. So if you're wondering, how do I do this, right? Use classical layering techniques, right? The perfect example of this is torts, right? A tort is a decorated cake that has multiple layers and fillings. These torts are like black forest and white forest. I know you have probably heard of this. Even if you're getting into this now, you've heard of black forest. And this is one of the ways that you can incorporate filling and layering cakes into your cake flavor blending. So when we're teaching our students, this is one of my most fun way to experiment with students by layering flavors in the cake batter, in the filling, and in the frosting, because it's the best way to actually blend flavors. That's classical, but also kind of exciting when you're doing it in class. So just an example, if you look at Black Forest, it's a tort, which means it has multiple things that should come together. So Black Forest should always have a chocolate sponge cake. The sponge cake should be soaked with cherry syrup. You should fill the cake right in between the layers. You should fill the cake with cherry filling and whipped cream frosting, and then decorate the outside of the cake with whipped cream frosting. Then you garnish with red cherries and dark chocolate. So do you see that? That is layering and filling to create a very nice cake flavor blend. So how do you practice this? How do you take action on this? Well, attend a class with a professional baker who fully understands cake layering, has experience on how to bake and assemble classic torts and classic layers. Make sure this is a tried and tested recipe. So if you can learn something properly, then you can go home and practice it over and over again, right? Once you get your knowledge, understand that knowledge, and then keep practicing to perfect this, right? And just a note, we have an intake on our in-depth hands-on 12-week course. It is a group course that's happening in Nairobi, Kenya at our bakery class workshop, and we cover lots of torts. We're doing lots of cake layering and filling. You're going to love it. So if you already know how to bake and decorate, you can start practicing cake layering and filling, right? Here's 2 projects you can practice if you haven't done them yet. Try doing a Black Forest cake and then try doing a White Forest cake. I just explained what elements go into that. And so you're going to realize that that helps in flavor blending. So that's one way of practicing. The 4th tip I have for you for cake flavor blending is balance the sweetness with savory or acidic elements, right? So we all know that most people do love cakes, but some people don't want their cakes very sweet, right? They don't want too much sweet. And so if you want to make sure you give somebody a good experience, a cake lover a good experience, you balance out the sweetness with acidic flavors or savory flavors. An example is adding lemon or adding berries. Berries have a very tart taste. Or you can add salt, right? Adding salt to a certain element of your cake can make it less sweet. It kind of balances that taste so that it's not too much. So just to give you a few examples of ingredients that you can use to make flavors pop without adding sugar. These are very popular and they always do a good job. This is why I'm mentioning these 3. They're very basic flavors that you can add. 1, citrus zest. So it can be lemon rind or orange rind. Some people call it zest. So grate the rind of a lemon, grate the rind of an orange. Don't get to the white part. Just grate lightly on top. Use that. You can also use sea salt. If you don't have the sea salt, you can use Himalayan salt or regular salt. 3rd, you can use tart fillings. You know, tart, the taste that's tart. You can use blueberry filling or raspberry filling. Those tend to be not sweet. They're usually quite tart. So classic examples to start with, and these are examples that you have heard of or you've probably seen. You can start with these as great examples of adding savory or salt or acidicness to your cakes. So I've given you the first example where I told you use a carrot cake, add a little bit of lemon juice. Usually what I would do is like for 1 kg, I'd add 1 teaspoon of lemon juice and like a little bit of lemon rind, right? That adds a little bit of acid and it offsets that very, very sweet cake of the carrot cake. Second thing you can do is add salt. So you guys have probably heard of the salted caramel cake. And in this, we use sea salt in the caramel sauce for this layered cake, right? Because it offsets the sweetness of the caramel. Caramel sauce is quite sweet. So adding some salt to that is a good idea so that it's not feeling overly sweet when somebody's eating it. And the third example is using a tart berry filling. So one of my favorites is lemon blueberry cake, and I like doing it by doing the lemon cake layers and then adding the blueberry filling in between the cake layers. So that gives you a very sweet cake, the lemon cake, but it has some tart to it, which is the the blueberry filling. And you can do the raspberry filling for that too, or cherry filling. That's another one that's quite tart. That's a nice one to try out. So that's another use flavorings, fruits, extracts, and essences or zests and fresh herbs carefully. So please note, I've mentioned a lot of things, but I want you to use all these lots of things carefully. So you can use flavor, you can use fruit, you can use extracts or essences, you can use zest or rind, you can use fresh herbs, but don't overdo it, right? So you can use the above to help you in flavor blending, but you have to be careful not to overdo it, because if you overdo it, a lot of them will add too much intensity. Like if you add too much zest, it'll be too bitter. Too much filling, it's going to be too tart. A perfect example is when you grate the rind of the lemon. If you're in class, we're going to tell you grate, but don't get to the white part, right? That pith, if you grate all the way to the pith, your cake has such a tart taste, almost like a sharp, people always feel it here when they eat your cake. So you have to be careful. And by the way, you can put too much lemon juice for your lemon cake. But when you're using some of these elements, because too much of them is not good, it's going to lead to bitterness in the cake. Another example is when it comes to fruit. So for those of you who have tried, or maybe you're thinking of trying a pina colada, there's something that happens if you use too much pineapple fruit. So pineapple is actually quite acidic. So if you use too many pineapple puree, especially in the cake, and I've had people try this out without using a recipe, and they're like, why is my cake breaking apart? There's too much acid, and acid actually tenderizes your cake, which means it becomes too moist. And yes, you can have a cake that's too moist. What happens, it becomes so soft that when you remove it from the cake pan, it breaks apart, right? And you can't even decorate that cake. So you don't want too much pineapple fruit in your cake. Some versions of when I do my pina colada, I use the juice of the pineapple. I don't use the fruit. I don't use the puree because it breaks down the cake so much and it becomes too soft. So you have to understand that some of these fruits or some of these fruits, they're going to break down how your cake works. And that's why you find people use blueberry filling, not really blueberry puree in the cake. Or we're going to be using pineapple juice instead of pineapple puree in the cake. And if I use puree, I'm using a very small amount. Why? It's too acidic and it's going to break down the cake. So you have to understand that. Another example is extracts and essences. And especially for those of us in an African market, I just want to break this down and explain this. So there is cake flavors. Most of them are called extracts, but we'll also see essences in the market. So the first thing I want to tell you is know the differences and adjust accordingly. So we're going to take something like vanilla flavor. Vanilla flavor originally has what is called vanilla extract, and that's the original. That's made by soaking vanilla beans in a mixture of alcohol and water. Some people do purely alcohol, some people do glycerine, and you mix that in there. And what you want to do is you want to extract, right? That's why it's called vanilla extract. We want to extract the flavor of the vanilla, and then we're going to use that in baking the cake. So if you're using extract, you're using the real one. What it's going to do, it's going to give you a rich and complex taste. It's going to actually, because it's from the actual bean, it actually has a very intense, I feel like it's a very nice base. Like it usually doesn't pop, it doesn't shout, but it's very deep and very warm. So it is important to know the the differences between, because if I'm doing a 1 kg cake and I use extract and I use essence, I'm not going to use the same amount. And also it depends on brands. Some brands have highly concentrated vanilla. Some brands do not have highly concentrated flavor. So test out different brands to see how that works. But just note, extract is the real flavor, vanilla extract. Now, there's also vanilla essence. That is an imitation. That is an imitation. This is made, it is an artificial product that is made to mimic the flavor of vanilla. And sometimes they add color to it. Now, there's a clear one, which we prefer using because we use it for multi-purpose, but it sometimes is adding the brown color so that it looks to you as if it's a real thing. But what they've done is that they've added brown color to it, okay? So it is less complex. The flavor is very simple. It just mimics vanilla. That's it. It's not deep. It's not nuanced. It's just simple. And sometimes it's sweeter than the extract, right? That's why I'm saying you have to change depending on whatever brand you're using and whether you're using essence or extract. And unfortunately, for some brands, which is why particularly if I'm in Kenya, I use this particular brand, sometimes some brands have a very artificial aftertaste. It's very artificial, so you want to be careful with that. So choose brands carefully. And the other reason why a lot of us in the African market use it is because it is cheaper, right? Essences are cheaper than extract. And sometimes if you're doing business, that is currently what we're looking at. And so you may find that you're going to use the essence because it's much cheaper. So again, in the African market, especially if you're in like Kenya, essence is more readily available than extract, because sometimes extract will be 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 times more expensive than the extract. So for bakers who are doing business, that's a challenge, because if we increase the prices, we might not be able to be competitive, which is why in the African market, you'll find that a lot of us use essences, but sometimes depending on my client or whatever my function is, sometimes I will look for that vanilla extract because it's definitely worth the taste. The other flavor to consider is use of cocoa powder, right? Use of cocoa powder as a cake flavor. One thing I like to tell bakers, and a lot of amateurs or beginners do not know this, they'll get into the industry and they have no idea, which is why I'm always telling people, if you're learning, please learn from an expert. Like for us, we teach you not just the practical, but we give you notes and we talk about these ingredients and their differences. And one of the things that I love bakers to understand is that there is 2 different types of cocoa powder. There is natural cocoa powder and alkalized cocoa powder. And if you can look at them, they actually have different color hues. One is sort of lightish, orangish, and the other one is very dark. And so the important thing is to understand what's the difference between the 2 cocoa powders. So number one, first and foremost, let's understand what cocoa powder is made of. Cocoa powder is made by pressing the fat, the cocoa butter, out of roasted cocoa beans, and then whatever is left, those solids, you grind them into a fine powder. That's what cocoa powder is. So out of the cacao beans, the butter is what makes the chocolate we eat. And then the remainder of those cocoa nibs, they're ground into a powder that is the cocoa powder. So the natural cocoa powder is the original. This is the most basic type of cocoa powder. This is originally how it should come. Right. And if you are, for example, in the Kenyan market or the African market, you have seen this type of container, right? The orange one. So please note, cocoa powder is not the drinking chocolate. That's different. Drinking chocolate is cocoa powder plus other things like sweeteners and milk powder. Cocoa powder is by itself. If you buy this and you put it in your drink and you drink it, most people think it's bitter as opposed to drinking chocolate. So this is what we use for baking. We don't use drinking chocolate. We are using this cocoa powder. So this is the original form that it comes in. It usually has a very strong, intense chocolate flavor. It can be slightly acidic and bitter. Actually, it is more acidic and it is more bitter than alkalized cocoa. Then the color is usually the thing that you know. It has a lighter, browner color. Cocoa generally is not going to be deep colored, to be honest. So when you're baking with it, because it is acidic, we have to use baking soda. right? Because when you're baking, one of the things that we teach in class, but just to go into it a little bit, when it comes to baking, you have to look at your ingredients. If you have a highly acidic ingredient in your cake, you use baking soda because it's an alkali and it offsets that acid. So natural cocoa powder is a highly acidic ingredient. So we have to use baking soda in our recipe, right, to offset that acid. Am I saying everybody does it? No. But to give the best result, if you have natural cocoa powder, you want to use baking soda in your recipe. So it's often used with recipes with baking soda as the raising agent because it's highly acidic. The second type of cocoa powder is alkalized cocoa powder, also known as Dutch process. This is very popular in the baking industry, and a lot of people will actually just start baking with this without knowing the difference between it. And for us, especially in class, this is the type of cocoa we like using. I personally prefer the color that it gives me as the end result when I'm baking a chocolate cake. As you can see on your right there, at the top is a cocoa powder, very deep, very dark. And at the bottom is a cake that's baked, a chocolate cake that's baked with alkalized cocoa powder. So the other one does tend to be a little lighter. There's nothing wrong with it. It just, I like the aesthetic of using alkalized cocoa powder when baking the chocolate cake. So the differences between the two. What is alkalized cocoa powder? So alkalized cocoa powder is basically natural cocoa powder that goes to an extra step where it's treated with an alkaline solution and it neutralizes most of the acidity. So what it does after it's gone through what we call the Dutch process, so that Dutch process is that putting it to an alkaline solution, it has a milder, smoother chocolate flavor. It is not as bitter, which is interesting because sometimes I'll have students who go through a class and use the alkalis and they'll be like, no, this is bitter. And I think sometimes it's more of a psychological thing because they look at it and it looks deeper, so they think it's actually bitter. But it's not, guys. It's actually not. It is a milder, smoother chocolate flavor, and it should be less bitter, as long as you don't use too much. It also darker in color, which is why we like baking with it. So because it's not acidic, you don't need to use baking soda in your recipe. So for me, if I'm giving you a chocolate cake recipe, most likely it's going to use alkalized cocoa powder, and we're not going to use baking soda. We're going to be using baking powder with it. So when you're flavoring your chocolate or your marble cake or your coffee mocha, please note that there's two types of cocoa powder that you can flavor with, and these are their differences. Now, in case you're wondering, what's the difference when it comes to taking action on these? Again, please note this is a theme. It's a recurring theme because of the bakers I've met out here. The cakes I've been tasting. I judged a competition that kind of surprised me because of the results of these bakers. Please attend a class with a professional cake artist who has full knowledge and experience of cake making and the use of various flavors, because they will impart the knowledge to you of exactly what works, what's the differences, and then from there you can practice correctly and actually use that information to your benefit. Now, once you learn from somebody who knows what they're doing, then you can go home, right, get the knowledge, understand, and then practice in your kitchen. And when you're practicing, because you learned with this particular person, they're able to give you the support you need, right, to do this. Again, we do have multiple classes. I will advise for you, if you can take a longer class, like our 12-week Cake Artist Bootcamp. The reason I say this is because I've watched students who've taken shorter classes and I've watched students who've done our longer classes, and there is quite a difference, especially when it comes to practicing and results. The more in-depth it is, the more I'm able to cover lots of things like flavor blending for cakes, how to use cocoa powder, how to use different flavors. And you're able to practice and ask me more questions as opposed to just 5-day class. Nothing wrong with a 5-day class, but that's the difference between the two. So again, in this 12-week course, we cover a lot of cake flavors, right? From regular vanilla cakes to like red velvet, rich fruit cake, light fruit cake. We even tell you the differences between the two. Sponge cakes, cake flavor fusions, and how to decorate using multiple types of frostings. Now, my 6th tip for you when it comes to flavor blending is please practice and then get feedback. So you're not an island, and especially if you're going to do business, you're going to be selling to people. So you need to make sure you're getting feedback. So if you're the type of person who is, let me start with beginners, practice and seek feedback, taste those things, like those I've just told you to try out something like cafe mocha, pina colada, taste them. Taste them multiple times to get the feeling. Sometimes when I first started, like, I don't know, 10, 12, like this is like over 15 years ago, I wasn't sure what I was looking for. So I would go buy from a reputable cake house and I would taste to see what I'm looking for. Like, oh, this is how a red velvet tastes like. Oh, this is how a chocolate fudge tastes. So that when I'm recipe developing for my recipes, I know what I should be looking for, and then I'll tweak and add whatever it is that I want. So please don't only bake, taste the cakes yourself and then have somebody else taste. Now, if you're lucky enough, maybe you'll have a family who, like mine, has tasted cake so much they've become cake connoisseurs, so they'll give you specific feedback. If you have friends, if you have extended family members you can give to taste and give you feedback, it's important, right? That gives you a foundation of if you're improving, if you're not improving. Get people who are going to be very, very honest with you. So if you're a beginner, go to class, learn how to bake, practice with the classical flavors I've told you, and then taste them and get feedback from people. If you're in that intermediate to advanced level, experiment and create your own pairings that will help you get really good results, especially if you're already baking. I know a few bakers who have started doing this and it's gotten customers to keep coming back and they've gotten to increase sales. So by adding these extra flavors, you're able to actually get customers to keep coming back because it's something interesting that, they're like, wow, this is such an interesting pair, or this is such an interesting flavor. I always tell bakers this, and I will forever repeat it. If you're a beginner or you're amateur, or you've never baked before and you want to learn, please make sure you learn from a baking school or a cake artist who has experience and who believes in supporting you. I say this out of experience. I've met people who've come to a class, who took a class, but didn't get support after. So they decided to come back and get class from somebody else to get support. I have known people who've gone to baking schools where they didn't get practical knowledge. And so you want to go to a place that gives you practical knowledge that you can use, and they support you during class and after, right? So for us, like when you attend our online class or a practical class, we're committed. We're going to reach out to you when you have challenges. You can reach out to us. We give you support during class and after class. We have an alumni WhatsApp group where people post their questions. They also post their things that they've done and they're proud of, right? Even in our current online class, we have a 6-month online course that's the exact copy of their 12-week practical one. And people keep posting in the group and they just keep sharing exactly what they've done, which is just lovely because it means that they're confident enough to keep posting because of the support they get. And if they have any questions, I'll answer. Whether you DM me separately or you put it in the group, I'm going to answer you. So this is an example of just like how people post in the group and they share exactly what they've done and the results that they've gotten in our alumni group. These are people from our online class and they do the same, whether it's a WhatsApp or in the Facebook group. They post their results because we are offering support to them all through the process so that they're able to go through this and become better bakers or become better cake artists. And just to show you an example of the class I'm talking about, the 12-week hands-on class, there's a particular student that I absolutely love because she was really committed to the class during and even after. She attended the 12-week group class, the cake artist class. When she was having challenges, she reached out and I was able to literally step-by-step guide her when she was having issues. She was doing her first birthday cake and it gave her issues. And I walked step-by-step with her, told her to keep sending pictures and videos until she had a perfect cake. She kept practicing. She took the class January to April. She's been practicing ever since she even got our Baking with Amari printed book. She reached out when she needed to, and she's currently able to take birthday cakes and celebration cakes. Look at this cake she did here on June 20th, 2024. Just beautiful. She has executed a beautiful design, flawless finish, very nice design that the client asked from her and she was able to do. So this is what happens when you not only learn, you practice, you reach out to whoever taught you and you're able to come up with good results, right? And again, if you learn from somebody, they should share tried and tested recipes, especially the flavor fusions. Because if somebody shares the right recipes, as you can see from our recipe ebook, you should get good results every time, no matter what you're doing, right? So the final thing I wanted to share with you guys is some of the flavor fusion that you can try out, especially for those bakers who are they've already learned, they're in that stage of like, I'm intermediate, I'm advanced. I just want to share some of the flavors that you should try. However, allow me to share details about our 12-week cake artist program that's going to be in January. So this is for anybody in Nairobi. But the interesting thing is that we've actually had a student from Rwanda, and what she did is she made sure she was in Nairobi between January to, I think, June. And then after that, she moved back to Rwanda. So if you're committed to doing the course, you'll make time, you'll make sure you show up. So the course is starting in January 2025, starting on the 20th. It is a hands-on, very intensive baking and cake decoration course. We offer you the ingredients, the equipment, we offer you the tools. So if you're looking to be a professional cake artist, this is the class for you. The course is 80,000 shillings. We do have a 2-part and a 3-part payment if you're not able to pay all at once. Make sure you enroll by making payment on January 17th, so you have a lot of time. And the class is going to run from January 20th to April 10th. Just to mention how this class will run, it's going to run on the weekdays, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., Mondays to Thursdays. So Monday to Thursday, every week for 12 weeks, you're going to come to class morning time, January 20th to April 10th, 2025. If you want to come to class, if you want to enroll in the class, first step I'll tell you, visit the class workshop. Get to know where we are. Call me ahead, let me know, and I'll tell you the best time to come visit. Once you are sure you want to come for the class, you have to make full payment or part payment on the payment plan you choose. And then also make sure you get a food handler certificate. But don't worry, if you're not able to get one the first week with my students, I usually log in with you and show you how to get the permit. It's usually 1,000. As long as you have 1,050 shillings, you can get the certificate. Make sure you have a hand kitchen cloth, closed flat shoes that are comfortable. We'll provide everything else. We give you a branded apron and a head cover to use during class. We give you the recipes, the notes, and the textbooks. We give you the ingredients and equipment, tools to use during the class. And when you're done with class, we give you a certificate of participation after you complete the class. If you want to know the exact topics covered, I'm going to leave a WhatsApp DM link below. You can just click on it and just DM, be like, hey, I'm interested in the 12-week course. Please share with me the full details, but this is some of the details, right? I'll share with you the exact dates, the exact cakes learned, the exact topics, everything. And again, this is going to happen at our bakery class workshop on Gong Road in Nairobi, Kenya, next to the Greenhouse Mall, Arcades Discount Mall, shop number 52, right? And I'll also share with you the requirements. So why learn with us, right? Why learn with us? For one, we're not exactly college. So if you're looking for a college, we're not the thing for you. We're a bakery that's focused on offering vocational training, which means we are paying attention to our students. We don't have many students. We don't have a class of 50. Usually we take a minimum of 2 students in our group classes and a maximum of 6 to 8. There's enough space for the student and you get to work on your own cake. You're not watching somebody mix the cake. You're doing your own cake and you're decorating your own cake and you're taking it home with you, right? It's not just a baking and cake decoration course, because a lot of the people who are trying to learn how to be a cake artist are trying to actually start businesses. So one of the things that goes along with this curriculum is the skills you need for business. We teach you cake costing, cake pricing, marketing, legal requirements, how to do a simple business plan, and even how to pick a niche, right? The other thing is support. I offer support to you and my other instructor. You can reach out between class, after class, even 2 years later. I even talk to people who are in class 8 years ago. You can reach out with a challenge or question after your class so that you can keep learning. We'll even share with you a list of vendors in Nairobi where you can purchase cake supplies and ingredients. And for those of you who sign up in January, we are giving away a 5-day extra class. You're actually going to come for class for 13 weeks. The last 5 days is going to be a bread and cookie class with your fellow student for anybody who wants to learn how to do that. So what do? Reach out via DM below or call, schedule a visit to the workshop, we'll talk, and then we can go from there. Now, final thing that actually, just to show you an example of some of our alumni who've gone through our courses and learned how to bake, learned how to decorate, practiced, learned the business skills, and now run their own small baking businesses. This is Pesh, came from Kitui, right? Learned from us, and now she runs her own business called Peewee Delights. You can check all these businesses, by the way, on Instagram. You will see their work in their posts. We have Tina Tiny Treats. This is Tina, who came to class for about, I think, over 6 to 8 months, learned how to bake, decorate, and took our Baking for Business course, and now is running her own baking business. We have Eva, who is based in Nairobi, Kenya as well, from Tunu Bakeries. This was like around 2017, 2018, came for almost a whole year of classes, did our business course, and now runs her own bakery shop. She started as a home baker and now actually runs a team of bakers. We also have Millicent, who's a former instructor of ours, came for classes, then became an intern, then she became an instructor, and now runs her own business and does a lot of wedding cakes. This is Faith. She's our senior instructor. Her business is Tunda Cakes. She came, learned a lot, became an intern, became an instructor. She still helps out sometimes with some of our courses, and she also runs her own baking business, and she focuses on wedding cakes. Our current instructor, one of my assistant instructors, her name is Immaculate, has been with us since 2022, came and learned, became an intern, trained to be an instructor, and this year has started teaching a lot of our basic to intermediate classes. So if you are focused, you can definitely do it. And just to show you a story of somebody who took the 12-week course, like I told you, she's based in Rwanda, came, did 4 months of class, practiced, and was able to now start taking courses. So we don't have all our students become successful bakers, only about half of them. But that's because the other half, they don't practice. So as long as you're willing to come to class, learn, reach out to me and my instructors for support, and then practice, you are going to definitely make it and become a very proficient cake artist, right? Now, just a reminder, we do have recipe ebooks. You can check full details below. We do have the 12-week course. If you cannot attend the 12-week course, you can attend either our online course. The exact course for that one is going to be available in February. If you want a slightly cheaper course, we have a 90-day class. It doesn't have the same stuff, but it's similar. If you don't want to come for 12 weeks, but you want a hands-on class, we have 5-day short courses. Those are one-on-one. You can pay on Friday, start on Monday, go Monday to Friday. So when it comes to the cake flavor blends and fusions that I want you guys to try out, especially if you are an intermediate to advanced level, this is one of the things I've been experimenting with, and I'll be sharing some of my results, but I definitely want you guys to try these out, okay? So the first one is vanilla, strawberry, and basil. So this is a twist on the classic strawberry and vanilla with the basil as an accent. Another one you can try is chocolate, orange, and sea salt. That salt kind of offsets that sweetness. Another one to try, coffee, caramel, and almond. So it's like coffee with a little bit of nutty. This is a really good one for anybody who likes coffee flavored desserts. Another one to try is banana, peanut, and chocolate, right? Because for some reason, bananas and peanuts go very well together. And so adding an element of chocolate, whether it's the frosting or even chocolate chips in there, is a really good idea. Or just drizzling the cake with chocolate ganache glaze. And finally, try carrot, orange, and ginger. As you already know, carrot and lemon go together. And already you have the spices in the carrot like cinnamon. So you can add a little bit of ginger to sort of just complement that flavor. And then add a little bit of orange zest or even a little bit of orange juice to kind of create a really nice fusion. So if you do try any of these, do come and comment below or tag me online. I'll be really excited to see what your results are. So again, to summarize my topic for today, how to blend cake flavors like a pro. My 5 or my 6 tips for you: start with the basics, tested fusions. Second, understand primary, secondary, and accent flavors and use them well. Use cake layering and filling techniques to do your blending. Learn to balance sweetness by using savory or acidic elements. Number 5, use various flavorings, essences, and extracts carefully and also understand them, right? Like your cocoa powder. Understand them and then use them carefully. And number 6, practice and seek feedback. So I hope this video has helped you guys. Do comment below if you have any questions about cake flavor fusions. If you do try it out, if you blend, you have exciting new blends that you have tried out, do comment below. Make sure to like and subscribe this channel and make sure to watch the next video, guys. I will see you in the next one.